But the prospects for July the 31st are more promising. Some Labour activists are still bitter at the exclusion from the shortlist of their general election candidate David Williams. And now their former group leader on the council has resigned the party whip, calling Mr Williams's exclusion the last straw. Max is almost as much a veteran of Labour politics as owner Brian Hudson. In the days of the poll tax, Max received his own bill, which was paid in dog biscuits. It's from that dispute over the community charge in the early 90s that Mr Hudson dates Labour's suspicions about the councillors in Uxbridge. He sees replacing David Williams as parliamentary candidate as an act of revenge to muzzle internal opposition.
They might be frightened. Dave Williams is no raving left-winger, but he might use in a small way the S word. And I think that they're frightened of, are there socialists still in the Labour Party? Yes, there are, but there are also quite a few that are leaving.
It's Mr Williams's support of this man, Wally Kennedy, for which his supporters believe he's being punished. Kennedy was active in the anti-poll tax movement and was eventually expelled from the party. Mr Williams and other Labour councillors tried to mediate between him and the National Party.
During the course of the poll tax days and the numerous occasions that we went to court, David Williams and a number of other of the councillors also came, quite rightly, came to defend their own constituents. The Labour Party didn't like that then. Blair liked it even less now.
Ironically, Mr Kennedy's Socialist Party contributed to David Williams' failure to win Uxbridge at the general election. The party took 300 votes and hopes to benefit further in the by-election as a result of Labour's internal difficulties.
Are there any members around here?
I don't know, yeah. I don't think so.
Labour's new candidate Andrew Slaughter has just 3 weeks to get to know the patch and, to use Labour Party jargon, to get his campaign team back on message.
I think the answer to that question is yes, there are lots of members around here. They've all pledged their support already. Yeah.
Labour says a new candidate is needed for the by-election because the skills required are different and the campaign much more high-profile than the one conducted here in May. And they point out that Mr Slaughter, a barrister and Hammersmith Council leader, was selected by local members, although more than a quarter spoiled their ballot papers, apparently in protest at David Williams's exclusion from the nationally imposed shortlist. Some gathered after the selection meeting last month to voice their anger.
What's happened is there's been a split-shot.
It's going to be very hard after the by-election to recover as a constituency party, and the by-election itself won't be a success that it could have been.
I think Woolworth Road has seriously misjudged the views of local people, and I think, I'm sorry to say it, but they're going to pay for it.
Befitting their candidate's recent arrival, Labour's shopfront in Uxbridge is newly decorated. Randall's of Uxbridge is not. The Conservatives want to emphasise the 150 years their candidate John Randall's family have been in the town.
Yeah, well, now the sun's come out, we should be getting these Panamas out on the view.
Voting Conservative may not be the height of fashion at the moment, but they believe a local candidate offers their best chance of holding the seat. Some voters appear to think the same.
A local person would have a much better idea of what was required.
If we had a local MP, then it'd sort it out, I think.
Because he'd know about the local issues, wouldn't he?
Do you think it will change the way you vote?
Whether they're local or not? It could affect it, yeah.
But even the Conservatives face their own small rebellion. Richard Barnes, who leads the Tories on Hillingdon Council, and two of his predecessors weren't shortlisted for the by-election.
Yes, I was very upset. Yeah, very upset. Along with a number of other people that believe that we should have been interviewed. And that is why I'm convinced that there has to be reform in the way in which we select candidates.
Do you feel there is enough police on the beat?
Yeah, I work for the police.
Do you?
The Liberal Democrats are using their favourite by-election technique, doorstep campaigning on local issues. But candidate Keith Kerr has a problem on his own doorstep. He's a manager at British Airways, responsible for the striking stewards. If the dispute escalates, he could face uncomfortable questions in a constituency where Heathrow is one of the principal employers. Brian Hudson also thinks the Heathrow strike is a critical test in the by-election, but of Labour rather than the Liberal Democrats. After more than 20 years as a Labour councillor, for the first time he's contemplating not voting for the party's candidate and perhaps writing David Williams's name onto the ballot paper.
I value the vote, whether it's going to be for somebody who's on the ballot paper or not. That's yet to be determined.
If Uxbridge decides to take umbrage over the exclusion of Mr Williams, it wouldn't take many such votes to help the Conservatives hold the seat and give them their first by-election victory in 8 years.
And we'll return to the subject of the Uxbridge by-election a little later in the programme. But first to education. The